welcome once again to Japan Expert Insights. Kanako Fujita is in the house, and we'll be talking to her very, very shortly. So happy Halloween to all of our guests in Japan. It's not Halloween yet here in Chicago. It's getting there. Fun fact, I used to always refer to this podcast setup with the three heads as the Gamera, the three-headed monster in the Godzilla films. And you know what? That's not the right name. It's actually Ghidorah. Ghidorah is the three-headed monster in the Godzilla films. And some expert am I that I had not caught that, and we are like 20-some episodes in. So, I was going to say thanks to those who caught it, but nobody caught it. I caught it. I was looking up the monster, and I was like, oh, wait, I had the wrong name this whole time. Gamera apparently is a giant turtle. So, hey, we're all learning. We're all making mistakes. But speaking of things that are happening that are wonderful, the Tokyo International Film Festival is happening right now. So if you are in Tokyo, please check it out. I know Kanako is actually doing some stuff with that. Maybe she'll talk about that. Maybe she won't. We'll find out. And it is, of course, Halloween, which is always a very, very fun time. Hey, Maya, who's the co-host and always with us every time. What's your favorite Japanese Halloween movie?
Oh,
you
that's
got a scary one? You got
question.
A good one? Kanako, you're coming next on this one.
No, because actually, yeah, Kanako, please go ahead first.
No, you don't have one?
Well, that's a good question, actually, because I can't really think of any like Halloween movie, but as a horror film in general, I like Ring. Ring is also
the
classic.
Ring
Is classic, yeah. And then Ichida Killer, I'm not sure if that counts as a Halloween, but
you know what, it does, because like my pick, I had to make sure I got it right, was House from 1977.
Oh yeah,
directed by Nobuhiko Obayashi.
Obayashi,
yeah. That famous, the famous very. It's if you're in the States, you can watch it on HBO Max and I think on the Criterion Channel. But House, late 70s Japanese film. It is so surreal and strange. It's like part Partridge Family, part body horror. I don't know how else to describe it. There's literally there's very few movies I can say I have nothing to compare this to, and that's one of those films. So if anyone's interested, crazy. So Ring is a classic. I mean, I preferred the Japanese version over the American version, although the American version was good.
I actually haven't seen the American version. I'm not really good with horror films, but then
neither am I. That's the thing. I don't like scary movies at all. I want to watch scary movies. I'll just watch House of Dynamite on Netflix about World War III. So like I'm scared. I'm sufficiently scared. Of course, we can always talk like about film, and we'd like to talk about movies here. It's one of the things we talk about a lot. And our next guest is kind of a perfect person to talk films because she makes them her career just took off, and we're just really, really happy to have Kanako Fujita-san on our podcast today. Welcome to the show, Kanako.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me. It was actually a surprise. Tokyo. Yes, we did. Thank God you were in Tokyo when you sent me the message. I was actually kind of surprised when you sent me the DM through Facebook, was it?
I don't know. I can't remember. We're going back and forth. I mean, I got very lucky because I think I told a lot of the people that I had a lot of meetings in Japan. I asked a lot of my friends, hey, did anyone want to meet? And I had 8 meetings in 24 hours. I ended up meeting like 13, 14 people all together. It was wonderful. And like you, what was the name of the coffee shop? It was
near Shibuya. It was just kind of like a residential area, a little bit far from this main station, but then it has this kind of like a cozy, nice terrace setting.
I really liked it. It was really, really nice. It had like all the Spy Family stuff going on just right around the corner in Shibuya, and then I walked around the corner, and that was kind of one of the most lovely things about the trip was I got to see a lot of the insiders, like where the real Japanese people go. And not just the so it was wonderful. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much. And actually,
go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. No, I was just gonna say the timing that you contacted me was perfect because in the previous month I've been traveling around and I wasn't really in Tokyo. So that was when you contacted me. That was the moment I came back to Tokyo and then just wanted to chill a bit. So I had more time to talk with you and just get to know each other. So that was perfect moment.
Yeah, I love it when things work out like that. It's always fantastic. So we're talking a little bit about because how I found out about you was the algorithms, they start pointing you in the right directions, and your name just kept showing up as somebody who was in the film business or whatnot, and just reached out. And what struck me about you is that you kind of hit the ground running. Like, you went to school, you got done with school, and then you just started making films and working in film festivals. And I think like a lot of people, when they listen to this podcast, they're very interested in like how to break into the Japanese film or television or business, whatever. They're trying to understand it. And no matter if you're in Japan, the United States, or Italy, wherever you're at, you could be Nigeria. It's getting into the film business is hard, and it's weird. There's no real direct path. So everybody has their sort of your own unique way in which they got into the entertainment industry. So for you, how did it start? Because you obviously you weren't always in Japan. You were out of country for school for a bit.
Yes, exactly. So I was studying in London for my bachelor's, actually. But then during the COVID time, I kind of came back to Tokyo for 1 year because I took a gap year from there. And then during that time, that was actually my first time working in this kind of like a creative industry. And there was one company who now makes like a music video and like short dramas. They kindly invited me to join their production. So I started as a production assistant in Tokyo. So I joined like a bunch of productions, like music video, commercial, web series, and everything. And through there, my sort of like the network in Tokyo industry kind of like grew little by little, and I got to know directors, producers, and so on. And also, after the COVID finished, I went back to London, but then this like connection stayed, and so I tried to like reach out to them occasionally. And every time I go back to Tokyo, I was like, hey, do you want to catch up? Do you want to grab some coffee or maybe some drinks? So like that sort of I don't know, my communication, I think kind of worked out in a way. So, and then until last year, I was still in London. But then after I came back to Tokyo, they were like, oh my God, we're waiting for you. Let's work together. So that was really nice of them to like welcoming me coming back to Tokyo and just like do some interesting project together. And also, meanwhile, when I was in London, as an international being in the UK, it's so hard to get into the film industry because especially there are a bunch of people who want to work in the film industry, but then they already have a visa. But then I don't have a visa to stay there. So I was on my student visa, and then it gives you like 2 years after the graduation to like find a job. But then afterwards, there's no actual company who would sponsor you the visa. So like that was my sort of like a 2-year limitations. And and at that time, I didn't really know what to do. I worked as a production assistant or like assistant producer here and there, but that wasn't really sort of like the permanent one. So what I started as was the critic, actually, because my academic background comes from the film studies, so more of like a theoretical studies of the job. So I was kind of good at like writing the analysis and reviews for the films, and that was the only way that I could get into the film festivals and so on. And especially in like the European Film Festival, there are a lot of like workshops for students or like newly grads to learn about how to write the reviews and like how to be a critic. And they support you with the flights and accommodations from where you're actually living into the festivals. So that was actually a good way for me to like join a bunch of different film festivals. And actually, if you claim as a critic or like writers, producers and directors are so happy to like talk to you because they want to share their films.
Right.
But then if you say like, oh, I'm just a random student or like newly grad who want to be a producer, nobody's going to listen to you. So that was my sort of like a little trick to like talk to different kind of people and actually get to know them, and so that I can introduce myself as well and what I actually wanted to do as a producer. And through that sort of opportunities, I kind of like slowly build up my connections And little by little, they were like, oh my God, I need someone who can speak English, or like someone who is bilingual in Japanese and English. Would you like me to help this preparing this document, or like, would you come with me to the festival? So, and that kind of offer came through, and yeah, and now here I am and doing some projects as well.
I have a question, just a quick one,
Mhm.
Michael. Please hold your thought, because you
Yeah.
mentioned, yes, because you mentioned that film festivals out of Japan usually offer such opportunities for students, right? So, and now we are actually in the week of the Tokyo Film Festival, and I just wanted to
Right.
know whether the Tokyo Film Festival and of course other Japanese film festivals, if they offer similar opportunities to students.
I don't think so. For students, there are not that many opportunities, but I know one, Yamagata Documentary Film Festival.
Mm-hmm.
They offer like a critic workshop for writers around like early 20s
Okay.
to join the festival. I think they support the flight. I'm not sure. Don't take my word for it, but I think they offer accommodation at least, and then you get together and then do some sort of like a seminars or workshops, and you can write about the documentaries and stuff. So I think
Okay.
that's
Thank
the
you
only
for that. Yeah.
festival that I know. No, no
Mhm.
worries. Thanks for asking, actually.
No, because it's interesting, and I have noticed one thing here that, of course, there are two trends in Japan. One of them is everybody wants younger creators, right? But at the same time, the other trend is that for every young creator, it's really difficult to get into the industry. And you managed, you did it because you knew that you needed to network, and you created the relationships and the connections and everything. But maybe not everybody is so well versed in communicating with people they don't know, right? And
Right.
so the lack of such opportunities here is something that I just, how can I say, the opportunities for students, right, to learn how to write, let's say, critical articles or essays and so on about the industry is maybe something that needs to improve, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. And especially for Japanese industry, there are not that many actual critic who would write about Japanese film, especially for international audiences. There are Japanese critics, they're really good ones, but then they mostly write in Japanese, and it's not going to be translated for
Right.
international audiences. So even though they write such an amazing articles, it doesn't reach for the internationals. And for that aspect, it's kind of, I don't know, it's such a waste of talent. So I hope someone could I don't know, translate those articles, or like someone who is able to like write in English could like write more about Japanese films. Because if you go to, for example, small film festival or like short film festival, there's so many talents in Japan.
Right. Yeah.
But then because there are so little opportunities for the directors or like new creators to get on the project, it's so hard to find the new emerging talents. And so yeah, I hope the opportunity arises for younger creators. And actually, my work currently is to join a bunch of film festival to present Japanese directors' works, and then find the opportunity to collaborate with the international producers, or like do the international co-production. And I think that's one of the future that Japanese industry should look at, to expand the opportunities for the Japanese directors. Because if you want to make new films with the fully domestic finance, it's extremely hard. You always have to work with a bigger production company, or find a great casting and everything. But then if you could tap into overseas funding, for example, from European funding or anywhere in the world, that gives more flexibility for the Japanese directors to like work on their creatives. Yeah, so I think that's also one way. So I hope that sort of opportunity is could be expanded more.
Right.
Mm.
I have several questions for you, but I will just do one
Yes,
at a
please.
time, because like there's so much to talk about with this, and Mike kind of like alludes to it a little bit, but like kind of backpedaling in a sense. Were you bilingual before you went overseas to school, or just to work, or no?
No, I was born and raised in Tokyo, and I went to normal Japanese middle school, high school. But when I was in high school, I did like a exchange year in Canada.
Mhm.
I stayed in like a northern Ontario area. They had like 100 people in the town, and then I was the only Japanese. And I
Well, that's
stayed
the
there
best thing,
for,
I believe.
yeah, it was amazing. Everybody knew each other, and then even like by the time I arrived in this like car station in the town, everybody was there, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're the Japanese exchange student." So I loved it. It was really amazing. It's such a different
Mhm.
experience from like living in Tokyo, because I've never lived anywhere else before. So that was the time I started to like being able to do sort of like conversational English.
Hmm.
So.
So do you find that being able to speak English, there's kind of a
Mm,
three-tiered question here, where one, being able to speak English, working overseas, being in London for a bit, and then also
mhm,
two, your age. There's the old guard. We've had a lot of guests on this program who say like,
mhm,
there's a way that business has been done in the past. You're part of the like what they call 30 under 30 crowd, where it's like, okay, this
mhm.
person's like a trendsetter, and you
Yeah.
have a certain age where you may not be as constrained by these sort of
Mm.
like so-called rules of the Japanese entertainment business. Do you find that being able to be bilingual, having those experiences in London, and just your age is giving you sort of an advantage that you find that's just working for you?
Yeah, definitely. So, like, first of all, there are not that many producers or directors who are comfortably speak uh, English. So there, if I could like speak English and also have this kind of academic background in overseas, Japanese directors or producers would like you to like help a little bit more, especially in sort of like international setting. There are some people who can speak English, but then they're not really comfortable in business setting or like academic setting when they have to like present the work to the audience or like pitching and stuff. But I've already done that during the university years, so I'm quite comfortable having this sort of conversation. And also because I have my background in the film studies and film theories, which are mostly sort of like the base for how European critics and like festival programmers see the film as. And so like that's sort of like the baseline for their understanding of like judging the films. And so having that knowledge also helps me to see the project and then what's the potential in those projects. So that also helped me, and also being younger is like it allows you for the, I don't know, like flexibility in a sense
Mhm.
when you really don't know the traditional rules, and especially in Japan you might already know, but there are so many rules that you have to follow. You have to be really polite, or like there are certain like unspoken rules that you're supposed to know. But then because I spent some years in the university in overseas, I sometimes don't know. But then because I'm young and try to learn, they older people, elders are usually very kind, telling me
Mhm.
this is how it's supposed to be. But then it's not like they force you to follow the certain rules, but they are like, here is the rule, but you can decide whether you want to follow or not. And I'm quite lucky with meeting that kind of people as well, and that allows me to like ask more questions or like just to say some bold stuff that not that many people would say because I just don't know the rules. Simply because
Right. Yeah.
not really having enough knowledge in like that kind of traditions actually helps me to like challenge different stuff. So yeah, definitely I think I see a lot of advantages.
Now so how many films so far you're producing? You're working on a few films right now, and you've already worked on a
Yes,
couple of films. What's your
yes.
what's your internet movie database look like? How many projects have you worked on so far?
Well, I have done one feature film, and for the shorts I've done 3 short films. And the feature that I did was with the Japanese director called Tomoaki Kaneko. We've done a couple of years ago, and then it didn't. It went to a couple of American film festivals, and we did the theatrical release in Japan. And for the other short, we did two with the Lithuanian director, who is actually my classmates back in the uni. And we did 2 shorts, and then the other short was with this Japanese director that I did the features with.
So,
And
yeah.
then
Go
and
ahead.
for the project in development, I have 3 features now. There is one called Push Button Syndrome. This project is in the development stage, but I've been working with a female director. It's gonna be her first time feature, and we pitched the project in Puchon last year, and we got the award, thankfully. And so now we're trying to make it complete the script and then do the shooting next year, hopefully. And then there's another one with another Japanese director. We pitched this project in Busan this year. In 8 p.m. there is a project market there. That also, the story itself is set in Hokkaido. It relates to some sort of like a personal story to the director. It's going to be his second feature film. And the other one is actually, I'm hoping to make it as a America-Japan co-production, but it's kind of hard, so I wouldn't share too much about it, but I'm hoping. Yeah. So there are 3 in development.
And you were a critic in some ways. You approached this from a very different angle. So right off the bat, you do one film, and you and I talked about a little bit, obviously, last week when we were prepping for the show, that you're learning as you go, and you also, when you're approaching it from this other angle, like why I do this podcast. Well, besides I get to talk to great people all the time, it's so much fun. I get to learn a lot about this film business, and I'm hoping one day I can get my screenplay made into a movie. Like, it's funny how you approach that from this like other angle. Did you find that the film criticism, besides just opening up doors, because they allowed you to talk to people that you wouldn't normally talk to, do you find that it actually helped you when it came time to produce films and become involved with film festivals, that the knowledge that you gained from doing film criticism was applicable to maybe not making the same mistakes early on as some others do?
Yeah, I think so. Well, especially when we were discussing about the script with the directors, that sort of like seeing this film criticism point of view is really helpful, because like, when you get involved in the project from the very early stage, you kind of lose whether this film is interesting or not, because you're already so dedicated to the project itself. So you lose this kind of very, how do you say, third person perspective on the project itself, very business mindset towards this project, whether it goes well or not. But then having that sort of a critic aspect, that allows me to like pull myself back a little bit and then just like judge the project from different point of view, not really the creator themselves, but as an audience. And so that really helped. I think it's really helping me, especially when we were discussing the plot and the script itself. And also because I have been doing the critic and traveling to different festivals, I already know the programmers for some of the festivals as well. So after the film is completed, I can willingly reach out to them and then ask, hey, would you like to take a look at our film? And would you like to consider our films to be one of your lineups, that sort of stuff. So it's so much better than just like cold sending it through the website and so on. But I can just kindly ask them to, whether you are to just watch our films, if anything completed. And yeah.
How did you find yourself becoming a producer? Because we talk about this. People go be directors, actors, writers. Like, there seems to be a very clear path. But like a producer is sort of this, even in like in America, like for years, it was sort of this murky, well, what's a producer? Sometimes they just give you producer credit for just showing up. Sometimes you actually do work. In fact, we talked about the Academy Awards here. You had Best Director, Best Actor, Best Actress. You had all these different awards. But they didn't really tie in the Best Picture to the producers. They finally did that just a few years ago, because they kind of said, well, duh, maybe the producer should get the Best Picture, award, because that's really what, those are the guys who make the movie happen. But a lot of people don't sit there and say, hey, I want to be as a film producer. How did you find yourself getting involved with this? How did you stream, and also do it at such a young age? How did you get there as quickly as you did?
Well, that's such a good question. I think a lot of producers have their very unique, different ways of becoming a producer. But my way the reason that I wanted to become a producer in the first place is because I was always fascinated with the idea of like film production and then getting involved in the film industry. But then I wasn't really interested in directing the movie for somehow. I was more of like, I want to tell the story that are already interesting, or like I want to meet the people who want to tell the story and then just help them to deliver their story as in the best way possible. So, and I think producer is the one who could make that happen. And I was also more interested in consider the business side of it as well, because like for example, if you are some like a staff crews for the shooting itself, after the shooting is complete, you don't have much thing to do for the film. But then as a producer, you can start from the very early stage of the project just to discuss the idea itself with the director, so you can get involved in the creative stage. But also after the film is completed, you can consider how you want to sell the film, how you want to, you know, distribute it to the people, how you want to deliver it to the audience. And I think the most important thing for the film is being watched by the audience. So you are the one, if you're the producer, you are the one who is, you know, in charge of like making sure the film is going to be watched to the audience. And I think the whole process itself is so fascinating to me. And I wanted to, you know, get involved in every stage of the film production and industry, the film business, I would say. So yeah, and I wouldn't say I already know everything. I don't know anything. I know some stuff, but then it's not like I already know everything. I'm still learning a lot of stuff from different experienced producers.
Oh, you wouldn't
So
expect you to know everything. I mean, you could be doing this
no,
for 10, 15 years. You're
yeah,
still learning.
exactly.
And even yeah, you're still learning
Exactly.
at 50, 60. Like there's always something new.
Yeah, exactly. So it's almost impossible to, you know everything. So I'm just every time I do the project, I know I learn something different. So which is I love. Like every day you do different stuff, and you every day you learn something new. So which is why I love this job, like film producer, because it's so flexible. There are so many roles as a producer, and there are so many stuff that you can learn and, you know, be active about. And what was the question again? I think I lost in the
No,
middle.
it's totally
Like, what
fine. This
was
is how this podcast
okay,
works. We just go off
okay,
walking around. No, I think the question was
okay.
really in the end was about like how you became a producer, and I think you
Oh,
pretty much answered
how
that
I
in
became.
spades. It's yeah, it's that's you.
Um,
Yeah, well, because I think it's the business side, and that's how a lot of
yeah.
producers they find that they're more comfortable with the business side of things.
Mm-hmm,
But it's also interesting because you mentioned the spectator, and you know, one of my like I have a few books that I just love that help me really. They're sort of like a very direct way of understanding a very complicated subject. And a few years ago, there was something called the Japan Cinema Book, where they just basically took a bunch of essays about Japan and Japanese cinema, and they just put them together into a book because no one had done that for years. And there was a whole, even just a talk about why no one had decided to put together a Japanese cinema book. The fact that like
mm,
Japanese people don't tend to write about their own cinema; they tend to look outward. All this stuff. But what's fascinating was there's a chapter on spectators, and I
mm-hmm,
always thought that was so fascinating to me because you even mentioned that you think about the spectator, you think about the person watching the film, and I think that's something that maybe that's something that because I don't think in the West we don't have that. I think the term is we just try to put butts in seats. That's basically what we say to go to the theater, like just get people to watch it, which is
mm-hmm,
probably why a lot of our films are lacking in quality and content. But in Japan, it seems to be something that there's very aware of is okay. So what's the experience of the person? At least there's an
mm-hmm,
idea of which, okay, the person's gonna be sitting in a theater on their phone or they're gonna be watching this and how that person interacts with the content. At least there seems to be more of a
mm,
conscientious attempt to have a understanding of that, which I thought was just really both wonderful and
mm-hmm.
insightful.
Yeah, yeah, and I think usually the cinephiles or like spectators in Japan are really good, and they love to like learn more about the content. So it's not just like going to the cinema and then watch the films, but sometimes they purchase the merch, they purchase the zines, and then they tweet about it, and they write some like reviews, they comment, they message the directors directly. So it's really nice. There is a really nice culture as a Japanese spectators to like enjoy the film. So it's not really a one-time thing, but then it's more of like a consecutive work interaction with the just one film. So I really like the like their attitudes towards the viewing culture. Yeah, and but then the number itself is extremely small, sadly, and especially a lot of independent cinemas are closing a lot, especially after the COVID. There are not that many people who would, go to the cinemas and like spend the time in the cinema. But then recently, the film Kokuho came out.
All right.
Yeah, and then it went like a huge hit, and those major cinemas, they played Kokuho maybe like 10 times per day, in even in one cinema, and it's so crazy. But then I was glad to see the results, because I thought not that many people nowadays watches this sort of like a high concept, no, like difficult concept films, especially because it deals with the kabuki, which is very like a traditional Japanese culture. So I thought for like a regular audiences, the topic itself is a little bit hard to interact with. People love like anime films and like more commercial drama films, but then kabuki is like not that sort of easy to go kind of topic, I think. But then Kokoho went to a huge hit, and then now I think it's one of the biggest revenue as Japanese films. So I'm glad to see that there are definitely some certain audiences who would enjoy that sort of quality content, and then they want to watch those content. So yeah, that was something optimistic about the Japanese spectators. But I think in general, usually filmmakers in Japan are very aware of the spectators, so which is why they always make merches, they do like social media posts to interact with the audiences and so on.
I thought what was so fascinating about Kokuho, and I
Mm.
haven't seen it yet because I wanted to, but there were so many movies. I really wanted to see Rules of Living while I was there, and I just wasn't playing
Mm.
anywhere I was near. I was like, oh crap, couldn't get to see it. But the fact that right away, like when this happens, first of
Mhm.
all, I do think that there is an interest in Japanese culture. There's been a rekindling of like an interest in Japanese culture, and even just in
Mhm.
Japan. I think the younger crowds like, oh, they want to understand their culture again. We go through these phases where young
Mhm.
people, I think, in Japan are like interested. We've had a very sort of westernized sort of movement for a long time, and there's a
Mm.
case where it's like, oh, well, I kind of want to know what we were doing a long time ago. Also, you see it in the international scene. There's been a whole push for sumo here in the States.
Mhm.
I think that
Right.
Japanese culture, now that it's people, if they get the anime, they understand that sort of like first level. And I think now, especially in America, they want to go for that second level. So I can actually see the
Mm.
Kabuki movie doing very well here. We'll see. I mean, you don't know, but I also think it's wonderful because it reminds us that all the algorithms and all the AI and everything that we have that predict like what people are going to be into,
Mm.
yeah, not really. There's what makes these things great is always these anomalies, and all the predictive analytics in the world can't predict that a Kabuki movie is going to just do that well at the box
Yeah.
office. But
Yeah.
also to the testament that if it's a good film, you can do a film about anything. If you have great talent, great writing, and a great director, you will find an audience.
Mhm.
And Kabuki, honestly, to me, it almost seems like a no-brainer. I think you could do some amazing things with
Yeah.
that. So who knows? Maybe there'll be this will usher in a whole era of like Kabuki spin-off films because this one did so well. It happens in the States
Yeah,
all the
probably.
time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if
Really?
you do one movie that's like once like Harry Potter comes out, like all of a sudden there's all these wizard movies showing up, right? Like everyone
Mm.
just jumps on the bandwagon here, and they're never as good.
Mhm.
The first one
Yeah,
is always the best
it's the
one.
best.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
always,
yeah.
always.
Well,
So
well, Yeah, except the
Well, no, I mean, there's
Terminator.
always an
I like,
exception to that, right?
yeah, I like Terminator 2 more than the first. So it's like there's some.
Yes. Terminator 2. We had this in
Yeah.
Aliens versus Alien. I like, yeah, well, that's
Mm,
James Cameron, you know.
right, right.
And I always have mixed feelings with him because I think he does brilliant work. The Avatar stuff, I'm really trying to get into. I don't know what's going on with that, but I know his Hiroshima movie looks fantastic. So
Mm,
yeah, which is
yeah.
that's all coming up. See, this is the thing about our podcast. We just never know where it's going to go.
I love it. I love it.
We try. So
Yeah.
in terms, so now, is there any lessons right off the bat? Like, because you're still learning.
Mhm.
Let's say somebody's going to be producing their first film. What did you learn in these last couple of years that right away you like? These are some of the hard lessons that
Mhm.
you should know. Maybe you can help somebody not hit those speed bumps that you had. What were some of the
Well,
lessons you learned?
producing the film, like
Yeah,
learn
producing, or just even being
for
in this
producing the.
business. Like, what are some of the life
Oh,
lessons
oh,
already? I know
that's
that's
so.
unfair. You're not even 30, but I'm going to ask you, like, what have you learned in your long existence of your life?
I would say always be patient with anything and don't expect anything to be perfect. And out of those imperfections, fun things gonna come out. And you make the budget and you make the time schedules and everything for the production. There's no case that goes according to what you have planned. But then that's okay. And that's how the film thing goes. And then as long as everybody have fun on the set and during the production, and then that's okay. So that's my list. Is it too brief? I don't know.
No, not at all. Do you think it's
Okay,
important to have a happy set? I mean, it's always good to have a
it is.
happy set. But
I think
do you feel like the product's better, that it just becomes a
mm,
better film if everybody's getting along as opposed to not?
definitely. I think you can actually feel it through the film. So I think that's one of my most important thing when I'm on set. I always want to create the good mood for the people, because film is entertainment. So if the crews are not being entertained on the set, why can we make entertainment? So the process also has to be entertainment as well. So that's my theory. So I
It's
always have to,
a good theory.
have fun. I know it's like, filmmaking is really hard, physically, psychologically, but then at least I want to make an effort to make everybody happy on set.
Mm.
Mm.
Hmm. I think, because you always do hear about films that it wasn't pleasant and it turned out to be a great film. But I think that's kind
Mm.
of the exception, not the norm. I mean, and I think also too, not it might have just been a couple people and not everybody, but I think, yeah, I mean, hey, if you can make your workplace pleasant, why not? You should just do
Mhm.
that. As
Yeah.
a film critic, of course, you've obviously studied a lot of films. So right off the bat, you got to ask, what films inspired you to become a producer? What are your favorite films? What led you to here? Like what's like your desert island film list?
It's funny that you ask. There's okay. I always have to say it's Harry Potter. It's cliche maybe, but I
No,
love Harry Potter. So Harry Potter is the film I watched so many times. I can say I watched it 100 times since when I was really really young, and that was the film that inspired me to like get interested in this world of film industry. And I have this like a DVD set, and it showed like behind the scenes and then like how they decorated the set and like a cast interviews and so on, as sort of like additional package with the main episodes. And when I watched it when I was like 6 or 7, and I was like, oh my god, you can actually make this kind of like a magical world into the reality. And that really, I think, fascinated me, to I don't know, make this kind of like fantastic story into actual footage. So that
Yeah.
was, yeah, that was a moment interested me. And then that's why I kind of wanted to go to the UK, because I always had this admiration towards the British culture. um I of course like train spotting or like I don't know.
Did you go to
Those
Edinburgh then while you were over there? Because that's where all the
I
Harry Potter, that's where
yeah, I
all the
did.
real magic is.
Great. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I did go to Edinburgh. I went to the Oxford to see the university. And then there's like a library. So I watched there, and I did the whole tour of the locations that they included in Harry Potter. But yeah, that was sort of like my first inspiration to become a producer. But then afterwards, when I was doing like when I was taking a gap year, and when I went back to Japan, I saw film production on set in real life, and talking to those new Japanese directors who wanted to create the films really inspired me. It was a very small independent project, but then actually being on set and seeing the whole like crews working on the same like very small scenes, and that was really interesting. Just sort of like like a school festival kind of vibe, right before the school festival you prepare the whole thing. Maybe sometimes you cannot really sleep because you have so much to prepare, and then you do this festival, and afterwards everybody feels so satisfied because you finish the whole chaos. And that was the feeling that I got from the film on set,
Right.
shooting the film on set, like yeah, until right before the shooting day you cannot really sleep because you have so much to prepare, but then you have so much like adrenaline rush, and then during the set you don't really think of the time, you just like keep going, and then afterwards we finish the film, we maybe like go for drinks and everything, we just talk about the funny stories that happen on set, and that whole process was like so fun. It felt like having those festivals, so yeah.
It's funny. I was just at the Harry Potter store yesterday. I've taken my favorite people in the world, in my favorite people in this world, to the Harry Potter store here in Chicago because we got one. And we got into a conversation. You know that there's a Japanese version of Hogwarts.
Oh, really?
Really?
It's called Maho Tokoro. Maho Tokoro. Because there's 11 magical houses. This is canon. So I was talking to the guy behind the wands. And I'm like, dude, how jived would you be if they did like a 4-part film set in the 1960s in the Japanese version of Hogwarts? Like, all new cast.
My god. Oh my god. I would love to. Yeah.
Can you imagine how jived would you be? There's like, there's a whole thing. Like, apparently the robes are like, they're pink and they turn gold the more they the more like the students like progress. But if the robe goes all white, it's because they broke the code of conduct. It's like, wow. Like, I had no idea that they were already this deep into like, the Japanese wizarding school. But I was thinking, if you're going to do a spin-off, it almost writes itself.
My god, I would love to make a film or series like that. Yeah.
It's funny. I was a late comer to Harry Potter because I think it was because there's only 2 Gen Xers in that movie, and I'm Gen X, and they died. So I was like, man, there's no entryway for me. So I went to Lord of the Rings, which is like all Gen Xers, and that's where I was at. But my father and my brother loved, they love Harry Potter. So
yeah,
and actually he had an extra Ravenclaw robe. I'm going as a
generic
Ravenclaw person for Halloween this year. Yeah.
Nice. I have the whole set for the Gryffindor student. And I even have the the stick.
The wand.
The wand, yeah, that's the word. Yeah.
What house would you be? So this is the Halloween episode. We can talk like this, right? We can have a little fun.
Okay.
What house would you be?
So I took tests, and then one time I came out as a Gryffindor, and then sometimes I'm Hufflepuff.
Oh.
So maybe North Slytherin or Ravenclaw. I'm more like a.
Which one do you lean towards? Then you get to choose, right?
I wouldn't be a Gryffindor, but a Hufflepuff sounds fun too.
Yeah, because I don't hear a lot about the Hufflepuffs. The Hufflepuffs and the Ravenclaws are kind of like those other guys, but seems like Gryffindor and Slytherin just take up all the oxygen in the room.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly. And I think like to be like a Ravenclaw, you have to be like super intelligent, and then like a Hufflepuff is more of like a happy person, like maybe not really as smart as like Ravenclaw people, but then like they're very kind and like empathetic and so on.
So the funny
What
part
are
about
your
all
houses?
you're
What
ready.
are
You're
your
so right
houses?
now. You're going to go with this podcast. What was that?
What are your houses? I'm sorry,
Me?
I
Oh,
skipped
I'm
you.
I'm firmly in Ravenclaw because it's also
Okay.
creative still. Yeah, I said I
Mm,
figured I'd be Ravenclaw. Then I took the test and I'm Ravenclaw. That's it. I'm just right there. So there you
mm,
go. Hey, it is what
mm,
it is. So maybe I can make something out of that house. I don't
mm.
know. We'll see.
Maybe, maybe.
Now, see, you're going to get done with this podcast, and you're going to say, "Okay, what kind of IP can I come up with now?" So
Mm,
you're already going to start
hmm.
working on your magical world, which also
Yeah.
too. But in Japanese culture, kind of lends itself to that, right? I mean, you think about the works of Haruki Murakami and the magical realism that sort of impermeates a lot of Japanese fiction and just anime. I mean,
Hmm.
it seems like I think the Japanese can do that better than most. And I always try to figure out what it is about the culture.
Mm,
It's just the mix of Shintoism and Buddhism, or the fact that
hmm.
there's the idea of yokai and spirits that allows
Yes.
for that sort of creativity and that magical realism to just impermeate
Mm, mm,
into
mm.
storytelling.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I think so. Like Japanese people don't have anything, I don't know, like they don't have any, how do you say, the hardship to like accept this kind of idea. There is like outer space
Yeah.
lives or like any other very like a spiritual lives,
Mhm.
because I think Japanese people in general are quite spiritual. So we have this like a
Yeah.
concept. There are some powers or like live spirit living around us, and that idea itself is very embedded in our culture and history.
Mm,
Maybe it comes
yeah.
from Shintoism, Buddhism, or something else,
Yeah.
but we're just like used to this concept of it. So I think I can see why this kind of a lot of like yokai stories or like magical fairy tale story comes out from from Japan. And like linger is also when you watch the films and then this kind of like a weird spirit
Right.
come up from the TV screen is like really creepy. But then yeah, I kind of like understand why this kind of things could be born in Japan. Yeah, because we always see, so the main concept of Shintoism is that there are like thousands and millions of spirit in everything. So let's say when you look at the stone or like whatever the thing you have, you see the spirit within it. So it can be either I have like a hand cream thing, and
Yeah,
then there
my
is a
cell phone
spirit
has a
inside of it.
spirit. Yeah.
Yeah, spirit, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So like
But
whenever the yeah, interesting object we
yeah,
try
you
to
know what I
imagine, there
like?
is a spirit.
What I like about that is also that, well, the Japanese mindset, and as you say, all these spirits that exist out there, and Japanese
Mm,
people know that they exist out there. But also, there is acceptance of the fact that those spirits, they can be either good or bad depending on the situation and how we approach them, right? And it is
mm,
also true, I think, when it comes to people relationships, right? So it's that pragmatism, knowing that everything is situational. And at
mm-hmm,
this point of time, depending on the circumstances, somebody can be in a good mood, and then
mm-hmm,
depending again on the circumstances, they could be in a bad mood. Of course, in Japan, people don't show emotion that much, but that understanding is really something that, uh, well, basically is the basis for nuance, so much
mm-hmm,
nuance in Japan, and how people see nuance here. Because also for somebody like me coming from the Western world, we don't look much for nuance there. We look more
mm-hmm,
about binary values, right? It's either
mm-hmm,
good or bad. It's either black or white, and the world
mm-hmm,
is not like that actually. And
mm-hmm,
I believe that because of that understanding of Japanese people, that there's so much. Well, there are a lot of yokai and also a lot of
mm-hmm.
spirits around us. Um, I think that there is also much more tolerance in
Yeah.
human relationships in Japan, and I think that transpires also in the movies that are made in Japan,
Mm-hmm,
because that naturally it comes here naturally for Japanese creators, but for the people who haven't been born and raised here, this is still a concept that is kind of new, right?
mm-hmm,
We like to think that we are either good or bad, and then a bad person cannot do any good, or a good person cannot do any bad, and that's not the case, right? So, and I have come to believe that part of the attraction of Japanese stories and movies lies also in this. Not the whole attraction, of course, but part of
Mhm.
it is here because it's an entirely different outlook on life.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. I totally agree. And in Japanese films and storytelling and also the way we communicate, there is a beauty in not really making a statement. There
Yeah,
is, you can always say this is a black and white, you can't really always say that. So, and then there is a gray area, and a gray area consists most of the, things in like
yes,
any situations. And I think our like Japanese people's ability to like enjoy this nuance and like play with it is I think what is like beautiful about like Japanese way of storytelling, because
Mm,
quite a lot of stories like end with open ending, for example, so they don't like exactly show what the consequences
mhm,
was, but then I think that allows the audiences as well to explore what could happen, the potentials within the story, and also like just enjoy the room and the visual itself to
mhm.
like consider what made them feel, what made it feel, what made them feel
Yeah,
through that,
yeah.
through watching the act of watching the
Right.
film
And
itself.
I think, sorry to jump in again, but I think that's also a beautiful way of inviting the viewers to develop or well, to develop empathy, right?
Mm,
Without realizing that, without forcing it on them. But
yeah.
still, by leaving the ending open, you invite them to, as you said, to think about the characters, what they did this or what they said that,
Hmm.
right? And then eventually going back and reflecting on that, I think that people end up with more empathy towards the characters as well.
Definitely, yes.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, Japanese films. They first of all they mastered the way to end a film. My favorite ending. Sometimes they just cut. It's just wonderful. There's something about like they leave the audience wanting more, and
Hmm.
that's the thing they always tell you. And I always feel like American films, why we have like 8 endings, like just cut it, and then let people
Hmm.
kind of wonder and think about it. And that's always a better way to
Hmm.
end a film. But also the fact that, yeah, getting to your point, like I just watched Bullet Train Explosion recently, the remake of the Bullet Train Explosion from the 70s.
Hmm.
And yeah, the bad guys weren't 100% bad. The good guys weren't
Mm,
100% good. And I think, when I used to talk, people would ask me like years ago, like, well, okay, so how would you describe the difference with like Eastern philosophy and Western philosophy?
mm,
I said, well, just go to the year 2000 for what in America was the two best picture, candidates, Gladiator
mhm,
and Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. They're
Mhm.
both movies about generals ready to retire. They're both movies where the general gets roped into something and it's probably going to cost them their life,
mhm,
and the story unfolds. That's where the similarities end. And in Crouching Tiger, it's about a sword. The sword comes, it goes. It's about the path. It's about the decisions he did make or he didn't make. Gladiator, they kill his family, so he kills as many people as possible, the Western version, so until he can kill the guy who killed his family. It's a more
mhm,
direct path. He just slashing and burning his way through bodies to get to the end result. And I think both philosophies, the more direct Western philosophy and the more path and
mhm,
enlightenment Eastern philosophy, has its merits depending on the situation in life.
Right.
But I always say if you can go the path route, that's always a better way to go. You can aim for those
mm,
upper echelons of
Mhm.
Maslow's hierarchy of
Yeah.
needs, of
mhm,
get out of food, clothing, shelter, and survival, and make your way
mm,
to self-realization and self-actualization.
yeah.
Real quickly, one comment we've had, Lily commenting on the Harry Potter films, saying she's a fan, and I know her. She's also a fellow Ravenclaw, so like the feedback. I think she quotes, "Love will protect you, Harry." So a nice
Mm,
way to
oh,
kind of go full circle here with the Harry Potter
mhm.
references. Speaking of which, you loved Harry Potter. What movies would you like to make? Do you have a dream project? If you could produce, it could be an original idea, whatever. What would you love to work on? What kind of film?
Oh, I grew up watching a lot of Hollywood films. So in the future, I want to make like big budget Hollywood sci-fi or like magic fantasy films. Yeah, that's my like biggest dream.
Like any
maybe like
particular one, any particular genre?
genre. I want to do sci-fi or either fantasy films, like
Mm.
this kind of like a magic films, because that sort of thing cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And in Japan there are not that many like true like big budget sci-fi films or like fantasy films, because it's just like too much. And in Japan it's almost impossible to make it with only with the domestic industry. So like if we have to make that sort of stuff, we always have to involve international money, like maybe Hollywood, it could be China or anywhere.
Yeah.
So as a producer who are more involved in the international co-production, I want to make that happen. Maybe co-production with Hollywood or China or anywhere in the world that I could make like those sort of like fantastic stories.
A good spy movie, maybe. I was talking to
Spy
one of our
movie would
guests,
be fun.
Stephanie Ariane, who was one of our guests. She was in Plan 75, and we were talking like, what we need is a really good spy franchise in Japan. We have
Spy
like James Bond, we have like Ethan Hunt in America. Like, where's like the sophisticated Japanese spy like series?
Oh yeah, that could one of that's interesting, because it can also lead back to like a ninja kind of vibe. Because
Oh yeah,
ninja is spy.
Oh, there you
yeah.
go. Yeah,
Yeah. So we have like
we
a
got our
ninja,
backstory.
but in modern age. Like maybe he could be like a
Yes.
ninja born family, and then like now he ends
Mm.
up as a spy in
See,
modern
there you go. See,
society.
this is what happens when you put movie people in a podcast together. We've already cooked up 3 different films. We can just start working
Yeah.
on tomorrow. We just got to get a hold of J.K. Rowling to do the Japanese version of Hogwarts,
Yeah.
and then we got to get a yeah. We'll see. I'm sure they'll just let us do it. Obviously, why wouldn't they? Uh,
In
but
10
yeah,
years.
the Japanese spy franchise and a good science fiction, fantasy epic in
Yeah.
Japan. Well, it's
Yeah.
like like when you think about like the whole like Final Fantasy genres and Fantasy Star, like I grew up as a kid playing those games, and
Mm-hmm.
I always thought it was really fascinating how sometimes like because I think how I've always had a fascination with Japan. Japan has kind
Mm-hmm.
of had a fascination with medieval Europe and Harry Potter, and
Mm.
so a lot of you look at like a lot of the Final Fantasy storylines, it's sort of like Middle Ages but also high
Mm.
tech, and I always
Right.
thought that would be a fun genre, right? To just
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
like to have like something that's like in the Middle Ages, but yet they have computers or
Mm-hmm.
androids, that kind of mesh
Mm.
those two genres
Mm.
together. See, there you go.
Mm.
We
Yeah.
just got to
Now
get
we
the
have
story.
another one. Yeah. I bet I
Yeah, we
think
just
like
gotta get.
I think there is already a movie about like Final Fantasy and so on. No,
They've
like
made a few, but they're
I
not
don't.
that good.
Yeah, I
That's
don't
the
know
problem. They
that.
can't seem to make a good one,
Yeah.
and I think it's because they're so focused on the animation. I mean, the one that
Mm,
was based on Final Fantasy VII wasn't bad, but it was kind of just like they just took the game and just made it into a movie, so there wasn't
mm,
anything new happening there. But no,
mm.
you know what though? That's what they say, right? Eventually, hey, they got a Fantastic Four film right, so they could probably get a Final Fantasy film right if they wanted to.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah. With
Probably. Well,
maybe
that's
like
a good.
Warner Brothers, you never know. The
Actually,
bigger
that's kind of the
production.
in thing right now is to just pitch Japanese companies their own IPs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just giving you a hint there. If you want to go to the Final Fantasy people, say, you know what you need? A real Final Fantasy
Yeah. And if the person already plays the Final Fantasy, they're like, hell yeah, yeah, we need the film.
So we
It's
only had
easier.
a chance to talk a little bit about like your film festival experience, which
Mm.
you also do as well. Is there anything that you've learned doing film festivals that you found has helped your producing career?
Well, it's good to know the programmers and let them know about your project beforehand, because like sometimes mm, if you submit the films too late, maybe they already have this like a whole lineup for the next year's elections. So always submit early.
Mm.
Always submit. Don't do deadline like yeah, closer to the deadline. Don't submit. You have to always like be early, as early as possible. And also, if you're going to the festival, it's always good to attend in person, and you never know who you're gonna meet, and all those like amazing connection that I have met so far is through the film festivals. So yeah, so always attend if you have the opportunity. It's better that you have your work to be screened in the festival, but even if you don't, it's always nice to attend in person.
we're going to run a little late here, just another minute or two, if you don't mind, because Harry Wright just had a question, and it's kind of a good one. What do you think about Shogun?
Oh, good question. I
I'm assuming he
actually
means the new one and not the 1980 Richard Chamberlain version.
that Disney one, is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Disney Plus one. Yeah, I watched it. I say they made such a great effort to make this not really, like exploiting this, like Japanese vibes. They really did an amazing job for like a production set and all this casting to create this like a authentic feeling of Shogun. But then as a Japanese point of view, because I'm kind of used to watching this Japanese historical drama, the story itself wasn't really new to me. So I'm quite used to like watching this kind of period drama, but then it's really amazing that Western production, American production could make something like that without really, culturally appropriating the content itself. So it's really amazing. And I actually talked to one of the cast there, Abe-san, Shintaro Abe, Ashinosuke Abe. We actually met it through one of the projects in Japan, and he's been talking how amazing the experience was on set. And also I've talked to a couple of actresses who appeared in Shogun, and they were all saying like how amazing their experience was during the shoot, and also how dedicated the whole production crews are to make this project as more like authentic work. And so I really respect the whole process, and I'm really glad that some other international productions are interested in recreating this sort of like a Japanese historical drama.
It's funny because your synopsis is basically, when I was in Japan for a couple of weeks there, when we talked about it, when Shogun came up, that was really the synopsis. Was it was really good, but we see these kind of things all the time, so it wasn't anything new to us. We just liked the production value of it. It was literally the exact answer I heard. So you're spot on with that, and I think and it makes perfect sense, because I know like in Japan it did well-ish, but it really didn't do well until it started gobbling up awards over here. But here, and I was one of those guys, like, and I ate it up with a ladle. Like, I thought this was fantastic. Like, and also too, because I did recognize the fact that, that the production values, that there was so much effort put into making it authentic and making it, something that was updated for the modern era. Because if you read the book, and even like the original, when you look at the original, oh boy, they had to make changes, and I think some of the changes obviously maybe weren't as historically accurate, but that's okay, because when you make entertainment, it's for the time. You're making it for this generation. You're making it for this audience, and every generation, when they reboot Shogun again in 2045, it's going to be different. It's going to have a different take and a different flavor, and they're going to approach it in a different direction. But the fact that they put that much effort into it, I agree. I mean, it was and to see Japanese winning Emmys.
And it was
Sawai go up there, and Hiroki, like, it was just fantastic. I mean,
it was fantastic. It wasn't Kill Bill at all. Like, we always bring up the Kill Bill every time we talk about like internationals making this Japanese content.
Right.
I like Tarantino.
Also.
I do, but I mean, I remember thinking, okay, this is all right, but this feels like I'm missing something. And what it is I was missing Lady Snowblood, because it was an obvious when you watch Lady Snowblood. And I know people love Kill Bill, and I was like, no, you gotta watch Lady Snowblood, because that's the real movie. And then it ruins Kill Bill for them, because like, oh my God, he like took everything. And how he gets away with appropriating and no one else does. I know, shots fired at Quentin Tarantino. I'm ending this hot. I don't mean to. He's a great director. But 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 I think because he actually truly loves Lady Snowblood. So when he was making Kill Bill, it was an obvious homage out of love, and it wasn't just doing it to make a few bucks. But that being said, I know Lady Snowblood's a fantastic film. It's that's the thing. Let's work on these movies. Let's make, so we stop thinking about movies like Lost in Translation. All these movies are 20 years old now. We got to stop thinking about those. Let's think about what's next. And you're going to be leading the charge for that.
I hope so.
All right, one last question before we go. Favorite Harry Potter film?
My favorite part. I mean, like, what's next? To answer the question of like what's next, I
Oh,
think
what's next?
there are gonna be a lot of international collaborations, not only just like domestic
Mhm.
ones, but now I see a lot of like Hong Kong, Japan, or like Taiwan, Japan co-production happening.
Yeah.
Good. Mm,
Yeah, so I think a
great.
lot of more like Asian country we can do all the co-productions together now. So, and hopefully that's gonna expand to like Europe or like North
Mm.
America. So yeah, I hope more international correlation, so bigger budget and then more interesting stories.
Sounds fantastic.
Yes.
Hmm.
Well, Kaneko-san, thank you for being on our show.
Thank you very much for
And you
having
never
me.
answered your favorite Harry Potter film, and maybe we'll just leave it.
Oh yeah,
Maybe we'll just
favorite
leave
Harry
it.
Potter. I have one.
What?
Prisoners of Azkaban.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's like a solid one. That's third.
yeah,
That's a third one, right?
yeah.
With all the fun. Yeah.
My
That's kind
favorite.
of, yeah, me too. How about you, Maya? Do you have a favorite one?
Oh, I loved the first one because that was basically when, well, that's what opened, my, let's say, I don't know, my world. That and
Mm,
just like you, Kanako, I thought, oh, so it's possible to really create a movie about a magical world which feels so realistic, right?
mhm,
And of course, the next ones, the second and the third and so on, they were just already, oh yeah, so it's possible. But the very first one was a kind of, let's say,
mhm,
shocking in a good way
mhm,
to me.
mhm.
So yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I love the first one too.
Mm,
Yeah. I don't think this is a bad one. I know people, I think, get mad at that part one, 8 part 1, but I actually thought it was kind of interesting because they gave it a chance to, breathe a little bit.
Mm,
We got to see some insights to the
right.
characters that we wouldn't normally do. All right.
True.
okay.
Kaneko-san, thank you so much. We ran
Thank
a little
you
late, but it
very
was
much.
so worth it. Happy Halloween to
Yeah.
everybody in Japan and happy almost Halloween to everybody in Chicago. We'll see you all in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being on our show.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.